our featured speaker today. And he is a speaker, a speech coach, residing in St. John, Canada, New Brunswick, and Canada. After a career that spanned information technology, sales, and marketing, he retired from Bell Alliant in 2012. As a volunteer leader, he has served as president and board chair for Larch St. John, an organization that works with people with intellectual disabilities. During 2015 to 2016, Jim served as international president for Toastmasters International, a communication and leadership development not-for-profit, which has over 15,000 member clubs and 280,000 members in 143 countries worldwide. In 2020, he published Secrets to Becoming an Effective Public Speaker, which is available on Amazon. I encourage everyone to check it out. He has now published 4 books, all with Amazon, including Write Like a Leader in 2023. He continues to be a member of Toastmasters as he believes practice and feedback are required to be effective in public speaking and leadership. Our featured speakers today doesn't need an introduction. However, please join me to welcome the past international president, Jim Kokocki.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for boosting my self-esteem. I'm less nervous now. That's fantastic. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. It's my pleasure to be with you today. We're going to talk about leadership and speeches that leaders can give. And I want you not to be like the gentleman pictured there. He's not a very effective leader in engaging his team, as you can see from the image. But you folks are, and I hope I can make you even more effective. So let's take a look. First of all, I want to offer congratulations to the immediate past president. I'm not sure she's here. Is she Ann Gilson, past region advisor? But I looked at the results for district leader Toastmasters of District 119 last year. 8 goals achieved, 28 members as of June 30th. So that's select distinguished, just 1 point away from being president's distinguished, but that's very good. So congratulations. Well done last year. As Lisa mentioned, I'm often invited to these sorts of events because I did serve as international president 2015, 2016. I'll mention briefly, there's 3 key roles for any international president. One is to connect with Toastmaster members around the world as much as possible to make sure we're doing a great job for Toastmasters in South Africa and in Zimbabwe, the Czech Republic, Australia, Japan, China, New York City, Pennsylvania, Hawaii, Canada. So I had some wonderful travel opportunities to see how our clubs operate in various parts of the world. Second responsibility is to connect with companies who have or desire to have Toastmaster clubs in their companies so they can provide that as an opportunity for some of their employees to develop their communication and leadership skills in our supportive environment. So to connect with companies. And as you know, I think it's about 60% of the Fortune 500 companies have got Toastmaster clubs. Lots and lots of companies have got Toastmasters clubs. And the third role is to chair the board of directors. This is a not-for-profit organization. We do want to make a profit most years. We need to pay employees and IT vendors and various vendors and publishers. There's lots of bills to pay, so we want to be a profit, but nobody benefits in a major way from any profit. And as president, I just sign documents to the state of California indicating so that we research that and understand it. So 3 key roles: 1, to meet with members; 1, to meet with companies; thirdly, to chair the board of directors and ensure we remain viable for another 100 years as we go into our 100th-year anniversary in 2024. Lisa also mentioned where some of our experiences, and one of the seminal ones for me was as I was leaving the board of directors for Toastmasters, a former Toastmaster who was board chair of this little organization called Larch in St. John asked me to get involved. Ultimately, I became president and board chair. And I recruited a Toastmaster to come in and help with public relations. He's now the board chair and president of L'Arche. So Toastmasters become very valuable to organizations. But as Lisa mentioned, I'm very proud of L'Arche. L'Arche is another international organization. That's the French word for arc, by the way. L'Arche operates in 40 countries around the world, and we work with people with intellectual disabilities. We don't work for them. We don't provide service. We work with them to make sure their lives are meaningful. So in my little city of St. John, we have a home where 5 people with intellectual disability live with 3 people without intellectual disability. We've got some apartments where we support some people who have intellectual disability, but do have a high degree of independence. And we've got an arts program where people come together and just build friendships, and they do make beautiful art. And but it's more about friendships. People with intellectual disabilities often have challenges in connecting with friends. And about 20% of the population have got some sort of intellectual disability. And then when you multiply that by parents and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles who care for these folks, it's important that we are respectful and protect their self-esteem. So I'm very proud of that experience in L'Arche. And I mention that because what are some of our experiences? 2 of the large ones in my life have been Toastmasters in general. I guess 3 in general events, serving as international president and continued involvement, and the experience with L'Arche. And I say that that might sound not very humble, but I want to present that background because we need to be very good at presenting our credentials. I don't think I need to settle my credentials to this group very much, but often in presentations in your businesses and outside communities, you need to say, look, here's why I'm relevant to speak on this topic. So these are some of the reasons I'm relevant to speak on this topic. I hope you're convinced. Presentations are never about the speaker, never about me, it's about you. So I want you to think about, I'd like you to grab a pen or pencil and a piece of paper, and I'm not going to ask you to share this. You can share it in the chat later if you want. But what would be significant for you in the next 12 months? Maybe you want to help your club be distinguished. Maybe you want to serve a Toastmasters role. Maybe you want to get involved with a not-for-profit organization. Perhaps you want to volunteer with an organization that works with folks with intellectual disabilities, or the homeless, or the people who are dealing with food poverty. What would be significant for you? And I hope you make some notes about that, because in my presentation, I want to get you thinking about working as a team member, as a team leader, and making some progress in this wonderful world that is never going to be perfect. So make some notes, please. What will be significant for you in the next 12 months? I want to talk a little bit about a book that I read, because there's some fascinating insights to team management here. So I bet you a lot of folks on this call, this Zoom call, would recognize Mr. Pat Riley. He's a basketball executive. He was a basketball coach. He won 3 championships as a coach, and I think another 3 as an executive, a president, and CEO of another basketball organization. So I read his book. I read a lot of biographies and autobiographies. This is an autobiography. And I read his, and I want to share something from it. And as I realized I'm speaking to a group that's based out of New York, I was a little hesitant because Pat Riley quit on your New York Knicks a long time ago. I don't know if that is an open wound or that wound is healed, but I thought this write-up was interesting. I'm going to read a little bit about it. It says, Pat Riley, a stickler for control, caught between an organization that wouldn't give it to him and players that didn't always follow him, resigned as the coach of the New York Knicks. He would have been paid under the 5-year contract he signed when he came to the Knicks in 91 for a reported $15 million. It was a long time ago, so the money's more significant now. It's more real than 15 million would be welcome, wouldn't it? He received no promise of the power he sought, and he said, I emphasized the decision to leave the Knicks had nothing to do with money. It was about power. The financial package they'd been discussing was very generous. Regrettably, there were differences and questions about authority and final decision-making. So an interesting dialogue. And I want to contrast that, first of all, because he does have some history with the city that many of you are resident in. And there's a difference in leading volunteers, as you are, as all of us on this call are, in leading professional athletes or leading a business. So we can contrast that a little bit. I will show you a speech structure that works in business and works with your volunteer leaders regardless. But I do want to contrast that folks in Toastmasters, we're not seeking power. We're working to boost the self-esteem and the self-worth and the skills and confidence of our members. It's a wonderful environment that we participate in. So I will tell you, I didn't enjoy his book. I thought it was badly written. And I think there's some lessons for speakers, because he would be writing about coaching in Game 7 of the NBA playoffs. And without warning, he would then be writing about speaking to a bunch of business executives. And without warning, he would veer into talking about the Japanese, or writing about the Japanese car industry. So no indication that those switches were coming about. So it was very hard to follow. So I was pretty disappointed, but then I came upon this passage way in at page 211 of 271 pages, and I'll read this quote because I loved it. He quotes his friend Dr. Lou Richardson, and he says, "Teams break when they don't have a goal, or the goals aren't clearly defined by the leaders. Goals have to be firmly entrenched. Otherwise, people begin to operate as independent entrepreneurs in a system that really needs cooperative work." I'm going to read that again and paraphrase a bit. Teams break when they don't have a goal, or the goals aren't clearly defined by the leaders or understood by the followers, I will say. The goals need to be firmly entrenched. Otherwise, they float. So that doesn't mean people can't have individuality within the teamwork, but the teams do need to understand, look, what are we collectively trying to achieve? And I think that's a big gap in lots of organizations. I think that's a large gap in some Toastmaster clubs. So Dr. Lou also had another quote in there. This is all I can find written by the guy. I'd love to read some more from Dr. Lou. He's probably passed on, but this is it. Two great quotes in Pat Riley's book. And this one, he says, if you go to a baseball game and you sit in the stands and you hope a ball's going to be hit to you, you're going to wait a long time. You've got to get out in the field. And I think that's an imperfect analogy, right? If you go to see the Mets or the Yankees, don't jump out on the field because you'll be escorted out of the stadium. But the idea basically is, yeah, if you want to catch a ball, you do need to be out in a field somewhere. I say this, I caught a ball once in Montreal's Olympic Stadium and it was hit right to me. So I have one of those baseballs. But his analogy is interesting. And this is a participation game. If you're going to develop your leadership skills or your communication skills, you need to do speeches, or you need to take on club leadership roles, or you need to serve on committees. This is a participation game. You've got to get out in the field. So to the meat of this, my simple structure for leadership speeches. This works in your businesses, your volunteer groups. This works in your Toastmaster club. This works in your district. And I've worked with a lot of people over the years who get promoted into management, and they say, I don't know how to start with my team, and they are reluctant to have an initial meeting. So you can use this for your initial meeting. You can use this for your 1000th meeting. This structure just works. So I'll explain it, and then I'll give you a very pertinent example. Step 1, these are our goals, and this is why they are our goals. Step 2, this is our progress. Number 3, these are some things I've seen you guys doing that's going to lead to our success. And then finally, next steps. So I'll repeat, these are our goals and why. This is our progress. These are behaviors I've observed from you that will make us successful. And what are the next steps we need to act upon? So I'll give you a Toastmasters example in a moment, but in a business, you might have aspirations that, your company might be saying, look, we want to expand into Mexico, and we've been planning to do that. And some of your folks are excited to see that happen and eager to take on positions and maybe lead those initiatives. And if you need to delay that, you need to explain, look, these are our goals for the year. We were planning to expand into Mexico, but we need to defer. The time's not right. We're going to do that in the next few years, but we need to defer. And some people will obviously be upset and challenge why that's taking place. And you need to give them voice. You need to let them express their dissatisfaction. That's an important part of people buying into what the goals are. Now, Toastmasters, it's more simple. And let me show you an example. So here we are with the August results of this club. I think the September results thus far are very similar. So these are our goals and why. Step number 1. So Lisa can deliver the speech. Any of the club executives can deliver the speech. Why are these our goals? Every Toastmaster club in the world has got the same 10 goals. This organization is 100 years old. This organization knows the clubs that devote energy to achieving at least 5 of these, those clubs will prosper for years and years and years. If we achieve 5 of these 10 goals, we'll be considered a success. These are our goals and why. 6 of them are related to education, as you can see. 2 are related to membership. 1 is related to training, and 1 is related to some administrative work. So the education goals are clear. The membership goals are clear. If we get 4 new members, we get a point. And the reality is any Toastmaster club is going to lose members. And there's surveys available on a Toastmasters site. You can go find them should you desire, but I've looked at many of them in the past. And 85% of the people who leave say, I got what I needed. This is great. I might be back. I'm going to tell other people. 85% are happy customers. I don't know how we get beyond 85%. 1% said club politics turned me off. 1% say district politics turned me off. 1% say they made me speak too often. 1% said they didn't let me speak often enough. If only we could get those folks to the other clubs, right? So these are our goals and why. 6 educational goals, 2 goals related to membership growth, because you will lose members, and 2 other goals. These are our goals and why. What's our progress? Well, as of end of August, 1 goal was met, and that's okay. That's all right. early in the game, 1 goal was met, but 1 goal has been met. But let's recognize behaviors. So I happen to know that James Manganiello recently completed a speech in Pathways. That means he's close to Pathways completion. One of those, that completion is going to hit that scoreboard and get us closer to earning a point. And Lisa Q's been promoting the heck out of this event tonight and LinkedIn and Facebook and all over the place. She's promoting this, so we'll have some guests to the meeting. Members don't magically appear. They need to be guests first. So it's a goal to attract more guests. Those are the behaviors that will make us successful. So folks, let's complete some pathway projects and get those on the scoreboard. And let's do some more promotion and invite some people as guests. They may become members. These are goals in mind. This is a progress. These are behaviors that will make us successful. Does that make sense? Simple model. Now, within that, I told James Manganiello, we were chatting before we started, I told him he's going to like a slide. This is a slide he'll like. You'll probably all like this, but a quote from the famous philosopher Marcus Aurelius. He said, apparently, I wasn't there, but apparently he said, most of what we say and do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. So he says, ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? And I challenge every moment, but frequently, there's things we can drop. There's things we do because of history or tradition or culture. And we really need to challenge some of those items. Most of what we say or do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. Ask yourself often, is this necessary? So that's relevant for club leaders, district leaders. That's relevant for you as human beings. And for the final wrap up, and I'm going to say to James, I can't see your timing. Like if you could maybe highlight yourself, James. I'm doing some timing, but you're the timing boss tonight for me. I want to talk a little bit about pathways because when we first introduced pathways, there was quite a lot of reluctance. People want change, but you deliver change and think, well, that's not what I expect. So there was some negative feedback initially. So I made it a point to just listen and document stories where people had great pathway successes. And I will say Toastmasters has always changed people's lives, empowered them, given them help boost their self-esteem. I think it's happening quicker in pathways. So I've got 5 stories represented there. I think I probably have time for 2 of them. So let me say, I'm going to take you through one of them. I've got an image of a nurse, and I was at a Toastmasters event in Taiwan, and I gave a presentation. And afterwards, a young lady came up and she said, Jim, I love pathways. She said, I've been a head nurse for 20 years, and people have always thought I'm bossy and I'm pushy. She said, I did the program to understand my communication style. She said, I made some really small changes, and people are reacting to me differently. I just take delight in that. And I'm not even sure she understands the power of the small changes she made, but we helped her realize some things about the way she communicates with people. And it's had a very positive result in her workplace interactions and probably all her interactions. So I'm just delighted by that. In the upper left-hand corner, I show what's intended to be a coaching image. So a friend in one of my clubs, he's no longer a member. He's happy. He's satisfied. He got what he needed. He's moved on. But he said he was working through the effective coaching module. So he gave a speech on his results. He said one of the projects said, look, go talk to somebody you coach outside of Toastmasters and get some feedback on how you're performing. So this young man said, oh, no big deal. I'm a sales manager. I've got a pretty big team. I'm just going to sit down with one of my salespeople and find out how I'm doing as a coach. So he sat down with great confidence and said to Connor, he said, so how am I doing as a coach? And Connor's eyes got big. He was awkwardly silent. And Connor said, well, honestly, I'm not sure what to expect from me from week to week. We don't have a lot of communication. I'm not sure how I'm doing. And the conversation continued and things got better. So what delights me about that is we forced that conversation. And if it hadn't have happened within 6 months, his boss probably would have came along and said, look, you've been having some challenges. Here's your last check. Best of luck in your next position. Let me know if you need a reference. See you later. So we helped him understand that disability. And I'll finally mention one more. So I got one that shows blah, blah, blah. Another person in one of my clubs did the speech on understanding his or her communication style. And he delivered the speech in the club and he said, hey, I learned that I talk too much. And I could have told him that. He did not need to do the program. I could have told him he talks too much. But then he said, I learned that I don't like people talking to me. So that's a big learning. So he started a new job. And he sat down with his boss. He said, boss, if you want to work effectively with me, here's a couple of things you should know. I talk too much. I'll be in your office all the time and I'll likely talk your ear off. But if you want me to get something done, just send me an email with what needs to be done by when, and I'll get it done. And I would tell you, any manager, any leader in this group tonight knows that if you've got a new volunteer, if you've got a new employee who's got that level of self-awareness and can share how to interact with him or her, that's extremely powerful. So I'm just delighted with those stories. I've got two more. I'm not going to take you through those. We're going to have some questions and answers. But and if you've got more, like, please share them with me. I love these stories about how people found transformations in pathways. The one with the little gnome, I'd love to tell you, but it's a long story. It's the best one, but I don't have time. There's the red light. So as we conclude, I asked you to make some notes about what will be significant for you in the next 12 months. We've taken I've given you a tool, a speech model that you can use as a leader to take your team through at your initial meeting and every meeting thereafter. Remind them of what the goals are and why they're in place. Talk about your progress. Recognize behaviors of people who will make you successful. Thanks for your time, and I'll pass control or to James or Lisa. I'm not sure who.